I did not go to college because I left Ohio. I was raised by a single parent who didn't know how to put me in college, right? And so my aunt used to do government business. And so she came to Ohio and I said, I want to go back to California with you. I had just graduated from high school, couldn't afford to go to college, didn't have the money. And so my aunt said, if you come to California, then you can gain residency and you can go to school much cheaper.
All right, so boom, welcome back to another episode of the Black Caliber Podcast. We are here with the CEO, founder, and creator of EICOP, HBCU in LA, HBCU in New York, and HBCU in Atlanta.
Yes.
All right. So first, I'm gonna let her introduce herself and then tell her like what EICOP is.
So wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, first of all.
The
Entertainment Industry College Outreach Program, it's a mouthful. That's what EICOP stands for. We are an educational 501c3 arts workforce development program. And we are bringing HBCU students. Our signature program, I should say, is the HBCU in LA, New York, and ATL. And we bring students to these geographical locations to immerse them in the entertainment industry. And it can be anything from television, film, to music, sports, live events, all of those sorts of areas.
Okay. So what is creating, like, how are you creating these opportunities?
So the way we create the opportunities is, first of all, we have to go and aggregate the talent, right? So a lot of the industry does not come to the campus of HBCUs. And so we are boots on the ground, as we are at Lincoln University today. So we come and we aggregate that talent and we, make sure that we're giving them the information that they need, but then also bringing them into the industry so that they can figure out whatever pathway it is they want to be on. And so we work with industry organizations that will allow us to say, hey, if you have internships, let's make sure you have some HBCU students that are a part of that internship program. And so that's essentially what we do. And they choose from what we consider to be our best and brightest that we have combed through. And students start landing internships.
Okay, that's great. So what got you started in the industry, like as an individual? Like what was your passion? What was your drive? What got you in the door into the industry, as you said?
Yeah, that's a great question because my road into the industry is a little bit different than most, right? Most people come right out of college. They get into some type of page program or they go and they work in like a talent agency at a mailroom pushing a mail cart. I did not go to college because I left Ohio. I was raised by a single parent who didn't know how to put me in college, right? And so my aunt used to do government business. And so she came to Ohio and I said, I want to go back to California with you. I had just graduated from high school, couldn't afford to go to college, didn't have the money. And so my aunt said, if you come to California, then you can gain residency and you can go to school much cheaper. But my cousin worked at NBC. And so she was a page, and that's the people that go behind the scenes and give all the tours of the studio. And I was like, that's a job? And so she got me an interview and I ended up landing a job as a page and then went from being a page to working my way up through the ranks. And my mom always told me, if you learn how to be a secretary, you'll always have a job. So nowadays we call them assistants, right? And so that's how I got myself in the door, was literally through a cousin who was working at NBC, moved to California to try to gain residency to go to school. By the time I look back, I was 4 years into a job. And I was like, I think I'm good.
Yeah, it works. It's funny because like how things always unfold is funny. Like even how I started working here, I started out selling brushes.
Wow.
I was selling brushes to clean like your bathroom and thing like that. Mm-hmm. And I came here for help. And I started as a front desk worker. So I used to sit up front, like where the lady is that you just saw, you walk by. And I went from that. Then I went to podcasts when I started my podcast. I actually did that because I got tired of being a front desk worker and the space was vacant. So I was like, I'm going to take it. So then I had to learn how to do all of this by myself.
Wow.
So then I went from that to now I'm the manager of the entire thing. I'm like, wow, that's crazy how. And it started because, like I said, I needed help with the brushes. So I used to go into Doc's office and I used to sit there. I sat there for like 3 weeks. He didn't even know my name. I was just sitting there like, And he has the same thing where he'll be like, all right, I'm about to go. He put his backpack on.
Right.
So he put his backpack on and he'd ask me, all right, so what do you want? Because I sat there the whole day and I tell him, and I knew all my stuff. I was always good with data. Even now I know all my data. It's just something I like because I obsess over it.
Right.
But yeah, I'm telling him the data. He's like, okay. Until eventually he just go, you want a job? I was like, yeah. I was trying to get tutored. Ended up getting a job. I don't even do that no more. It's just crazy.
That's amazing. But you found you allowed yourself to be in a space, right? And if you take up that space in a positive way, good things are going to come out of it. I mean, for me, it was the same thing. Like, I didn't know what I wanted to do in entertainment. I just knew I didn't want to do what I saw everybody else doing back home. I just wanted to do something different. I couldn't put my finger on it, but I stepped into that environment and look what that environment produced. Who would have thought that I would, be doing what I'm doing now? It was also working at NBC that I ended up forming a staffing agency. So we've been staffing for the major studios and networks for 30 years. And that was because I figured out that I needed to hire people like myself who knew what I knew. And I ended up forming a staffing agency. So my husband and I have been running our staffing agency in Los Angeles for 30 years, staffing people for major studios and networks all across the industry. And I never went to school a day in my life or took a business course. But I knew a need and I saw a void. And I thought, oh, here's a solution. So I filled it.
And that's one of the big things that I try and showcase here on this podcast is like, yeah, I'm in college and I'm doing college, but you don't have to go to college to be successful. So I love that. So let's go back to EICOP, which is why, we either got you here. So what was it like starting that out? Like what sparked that? This is something, you said you saw needs, but where were you when you were like, you saw that need, like we need more people in this industry?
Yeah. So keep in mind, as I mentioned, I worked for NBC. I got that job as a page, but then as a result, I ended up landing a full-time job after your page. They called it the pagedom. Once that ends, which is about 14 months, then you have to find another full-time job in order to stay at the network. And so there was a job open in the Movie of the Week department. And so I became an assistant to the director of the Movie of the Week department. And then I eventually became the assistant to the chairman of the studio of the network. And it was during my days of working for the chairman that I kept hearing them talk about affirmative action. They wanted to have more diverse folks. And so I was like, oh my goodness, this is crazy, right? So then from there, I went over to Paramount and I worked for the head of Paramount. He was saying the same thing. During the course of time, I ended up writing a book about how to launch a career in the industry. And that's when the light bulb went on for me. I said, I know how you guys can stop talking about diversity and actually bring people here. And so what I realized in my research of figuring out the book and then just how internships work was that the Motion Picture Academy, the people that do the Oscars every year, they went into a joint venture with USC, the University of Southern California, formed the first film school in the nation. So I said, if the industry realizes there's benefit between institution and industry, then why don't we go to HBCUs? Because the industry has gone to those universities forever, which produce one caliber of people primarily. That's why the industry looks the way it looks. But if you go to HBCUs, now you're going to bring diverse students in. You're going to change the look of its workforce. And so I said, how do I do that? I had to do that by creating a program that the industry A would fund, and then I would be able to go out and find that talent. And now we've got a workforce in the industry. So that's really the crux of how all this came to be.
That's really dope.
Thank you.
It's dope. Like, it's nice to see people looking out.
Yeah, because I look at it, I'm like, you watch the industry and you see very notable people, of color in the industry, but I'm going like, they have so much power than me, but I came up with the solution, took it to the industry, and the industry bought it, right? So now here I am. How do I give back to my own community? Realizing that someone opened the door for me. We all have to be shoulders for somebody else to stand on. So for me, I count it an honor and a privilege to be able to do this work.
Okay. So what was the first year like? Because I know the first year anything is always a little hectic. So what was your first year, your cohorts, and you got all your HBCU scholars, and you bring them all together. What was it like?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so what was it like? First of all, to have them all there, it was incredible. I only had a cohort of 7. Okay, last summer we had 130 students across 3 different states. So the first cohort was tiny. It came about in the hardest way possible because I'm a small fish in a big pond in the industry with this idea that I have to diversify it. And I got pushback. I got a lot of pushback. People wanted to partner with me, but they didn't want me to call it HBCU because it didn't look inclusive enough. And I'm like, well, why do we always have to share when nobody else has to share? So I'm like, look, I don't care what we do. It has to be HBCU, it has to be front and center. And so from there, what happened is that the folks inside the industry, some very high up folks, ended up stealing my idea and forming their own program. But God doesn't like ugly, so it didn't go well. So I was deciding at that point I was going to quit because I'm like, look, I'm not trying to get a feather in my cap. I'm trying to help my people get access into this industry. And so I literally was like, I'm ready to quit. But I was like, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to go forward with the 7 that I got. We got them housed. We got them their internships. The next year, everything turned around and we had a larger cohort. But that first year was trial. It was tough. It was, I'm going to quit. I'm not going to do it. I got too many people against me. I'm too small. And God reminded me I ain't too small. Not when you have me. So I kept going.
Yeah. So when you were getting this pushback, what really made you be like, no, I'm going to keep going? Because I know that has to be there. Like you said, you're a small fish in a big pond. So what made you decide, no, what, like, I'm going to hunker down. They can do that. They're not going to get to, like, what created that? What
created that, I'm sure, was my faith, number one. I believed in myself. And anything you do that's worthwhile, I told myself, it's like, it's going to come with roadblocks. It's going to come with obstacles. And only the strong really do survive, because it's easy to say, I tried, but I tried and it's not good enough for me. So it's like, no, I'm going to try and I'm going to try harder and I'm going to make this thing work. And it literally was just having faith in myself, knowing the product of what I was doing, and I knew the good that it was going to bring, right? So it was like, just keep going. It's not about you. It's about what you're trying to do for others.
It's not about you.
It's not about me. It's not. It's like, at the end of the day, look, if I'm not doing good in the world for someone else, what am I here for? Right? So it's like, no, whether it's making a product that makes it easier for somebody in their life or not, it's really about giving back and realizing that our story is bigger than us.
Okay. That's, it's powerful. So sometimes I be taking it back. This happens a lot. I'm like, oh, wow.
Well, I'm glad. Yes. But it sounds like you have that same thing, right? You're wanting to do something. You're putting yourself out there. And you started from I started here and now I'm over here. And it's like, wow, look at this, right? And so one day you're going to be sitting and having this discussion and you'll remember sitting at that cubicle front reception area.
Yeah, I do. I was just sitting there just like, man, they in the back doing all types of stuff because laughing, because here it's always busy. So you hear them laughing in the back. Right. But I was like, I got to stay up here. Somebody got to be here. Gotta be here.
Right.
I was just glad that he noticed and saw that that drive, because I started making flyers, and it's funny also because people be scared to start, and it's like I look back and I used to get so many compliments, and it used to be so terrible. Even the ones on this channel, now I don't even show the video anymore. But if you go to the Linkubator, you go watch the original videos. That's for y'all too. And the camera used to cut off. So we would be talking and it would just go blurry. It's like we're in a room, we're in a cave, we're in a dark part of campus. There's no lights. I don't know where to look. I'm like this. It's just as I kept doing it, things just started
You just have to start.
Literally. I tell people.
How do you do it? One foot in front of the other. You learn as you go. Because what I realize is that you see people at a certain level of where they are, but you don't realize how much they had to go through to get to where they are. So people always say, oh man, I want to be who they are. And I always say, are you willing to pay the price that they've paid to get to where they are? Yeah. That's a whole different look.
Yeah. Very. I be seeing that now. I be sitting there some days making these videos like, I got to do it though. And I still got to do schoolwork and go to track practice and go to work.
All of that.
So what year you feel like has been your favorite year you feel like you made the most impact?
Oh, wow. I would say 2022.
2022?
Yeah. And actually 2019, well, I'm going to go back to 2019. 2019 because we, I don't know, it was a different vibe for the cohort. We also did our first short film, and I was like, this is the next generation content creators, right? The students pitched their own idea. They pitched it to a live writer's room. They went pen to paper, so they had to write their script. They had to go do a location scout, and we shot it on top of the line camera equipment, and we did a screening to the industry, and people were blown away. And for me, I think it was the first time I went, not only am I showing them the next generation business leaders, but I'm showing them the next generation writers, directors, producers, podcasters, creatives. Yeah. And the camaraderie that they had. Oh my God, I was like, what did I do? I think that was the year. And then 2022, it was just, everybody kept getting internship offers. And I'm like, how many people are we housing? So it was probably one of our largest cohort years as well.
Okay, it's dope. Especially when you talk about film. I was trying to make a film one time. I realized how difficult it was. But I'm going to get to that eventually, because that's part of the plan. Eventually, I'm going to start making my little mini films. But I think that's super dope, especially because you were able to showcase it to people who probably weren't expecting much. And then blow it out the water.
And what was crazy is that year, that summer, the Smithsonian, the African American Museum folks were in town, and they did a talk with the students about, telling our stories authentically and how our stories have been told down through the years. And so they knew we were doing this short film. So they said to me, Stacy, when the students finish, we'd like to see it. And I'm like, okay. So I ended up at a meeting in DC, and so I went over and met with them, and they were like, oh my God, this film is incredible. We want to use this film in our upcoming Smithsonian African American Film Festival. And I'm like, are you kidding me? So it's like, we were going to fly all the students in, they were going to do a panel, we were going to do a whole thing, and then COVID hit. But that was the impact, right? Because they said they didn't think, because it was a student film, that it would be, it was going to be a student film. This thing, we could have went to Sundance and sold it and then made a real movie. I mean, that's how good it was.
Is it like out?
It is. You can see it on our YouTube channel.
All right.
Yeah.
It is.
It is at HBCU in LA.
All right. Yeah. Y'all go watch that.
Yeah.
I'm about to go.
And it's called Uchawi. Yeah. UCHAWI. And it is an incredible story about some sisters. That's all I'll give.
All right, that's your little.
And then we have another one on our channel too called Drafted. This one was really cool because it was about a group. First of all, the U.S. is losing the army, so I guess we're World War III. We're losing the army. Russia's taking over. All this other stuff, and then because we're short on people who can come and serve, they put out a draft for women, and so whoever in the household chooses which woman is going to go off and go to war. So that's what that story's about.
Like a Hunger Games.
It's pretty cool.
That's a neat idea.
Yeah.
Hopefully it don't happen in real life.
No, I hope so too.
So this year, what are you looking forward to? Do you have any new plans, any new ideas, new movements?
Yes, we got a few. So one, we're going to be doing in partnership with Netflix, we're going to launch our film intensive, where we're going to actually bring recent graduates to Los Angeles to learn the business of creating content. and they will also be tasked with doing a short film and creating content. And then also we're looking to launch HBCU in Nashville, where we are going to allow students to come to Nashville to actually learn the business behind the business of music.
Learn the business behind the business of music.
Yeah. And that's a very important thing, right? Because a lot of times folks are only focused on the artist side in front of everything, but there is so much more that happens behind the scenes that they have no idea about. And if you ever watch Unsung Heroes and you learn about how we as a people have lost and come up broke after we make all these major hits, but nobody knows how to handle their money or the business behind that.
Or even how to read the contract.
Exactly.
That was Birdman stole $100 million from Lil Wayne.
Yes. So crazy, right? So that part.
Okay. So also, what are you doing? This may be a direct question, kind of selfish of me, but what are the things or opportunities you have for people who want to do podcasts and radio shows and things like that?
Well, I put all that into stories, right? We all are telling stories in some format. So it's just a matter of what format, what medium are you utilizing? If you're a content creator, that can be film, it can be a podcast, it can be anything, right? What story are you telling? And so what we do is allow folks to come in and learn that aspect of, this is how to pitch a great story. This is how to pitch yourself. This is how to pitch an idea. And so all of that we support students with. And I'm sure that there are going to be times where we're going to have an opportunity for folks to do a podcast. We actually have a podcast that we are going to actually allow our alumni and the students to take over, so that they can continue to do interviews. So we've got Pharrell's new movie coming out, right? So wouldn't it be great to, okay, these are our future content creators, and so now we've got a movie coming out. Well, now we have you sit and talk with Pharrell about this new movie. So that's what we ultimately want to do with that podcast, is to bring, movers and shakers in the industry on to talk with the next generation.
Okay, because I'm good for stopping somebody in the hallway for a podcast. They seen this. I went to Miami to I went to Miami and Atlanta, and it's like, it don't matter where you are. If I see, hey, you want to do a podcast? Yeah, we can do it right now. Look.
Wire them up.
Yeah, we go. I got a podcast at 2-3 minutes, but and regardless, it was just like, you gotta go get it.
Yeah.
You gotta go get it. So is there anything that you would want to, actually, before I close this out, are there any books you're reading right now?
Any books that I'm reading right now? I'm reading Through the Fire by Sheila Johnson. She is, she's just a pioneer, right? BET, she and her husband, Robert Johnson, formed BET. And then, she, of course, owns a ton of things. But anyway, it's about her journey. And so I'm reading that. I always love reading about other visionaries and leaders. And so her book I'm reading right now. And I think because that's the other one. Because the other one, that one's a minute ago. But yeah, that's what I'm reading right now.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm always reading. I'm always watching something. Actually, I'm not a big moviegoer or a big TV watcher. But I know what's out there, right? The things that I like, it's like The Voice. I like stories, things that you see somebody who wants something, those types of things resonate with me, because that's what I'm doing, right? I'm helping to make a dream and a reality happen.
Yeah, I'm not a big TV watcher either. I'm starting to watch movies, and now I be quoting them, but I'm starting to way back, so I be quoting movies, and people be looking at me like, I don't watch that. I quote Training Day 3 times a day, but I love that movie.
Right.
Yeah,
but they're not making stuff like that now. It's like they're doing a bunch of remakes. It's like, get original stuff again.
I'm cool with a Training Day remake.
Yeah,
I would love that.
I'd like to see that one.
Yes, but with that, can I just get you to say this is the Black Caliber Podcast?
This is the Black Caliber Podcast. You want me to look at the camera?
You can.
This is the Black Caliber Podcast, and it's pretty dope.
Thank you.